Recording in process.
Thank you. Since we do have so many, I'm going to go ahead and just cover some of the basic processes that we've been using as the chapter council. Please, if you're going to have any kind of discussions outside of the voice chat, do that in the CC meeting chat. If you want to speak verbally, please put a hand in the CC meeting chat, and I would do my best to keep those in order and recognize you in order to speak. All proposals made for votes have to be done 2 weeks before the chapter council meeting, discussed at the chapter council meeting, and then voted on during 2 weeks after. So for this meeting here, everything will be as an option to vote will be basically just what's on the agenda for today. If there's anything else, it will have to wait until the next chapter council meeting. I do ask that everybody remain either on mute or on push to talk. We'll probably give you a gentle reminder if we do hear any background noise. Currently, everybody's doing great, so I do appreciate it once more. Next thing is we do need someone to take meeting minutes. Do we have any volunteers in order to record the meeting minutes for today? Okay. Some of the times, if I do hesitate for a extended period, it may be because I see someone typing and just want to make sure that they get their message out beforehand, so I don't overreach or talk over someone that's trying to respond in the text chat. Okay, last call for anybody that can take the minutes. I'll try and record and transcript later. Okay, if everybody's good with that, then we will carry on. Which, in my mind, having the video should be enough. And then with the agenda, it should cover most questions. Neat. Thank you, Timorn. So first meeting of business, as is always the first meeting, let's discuss the next meeting for the chapter council. With consideration to some of the proposals that are being made, I am expecting that we should have one sometime in February. So I think the best bet would probably be February 26th. Does anybody else have any suggestions as far as dates they would like to have considered for the chapter council meeting for the very next one? I will also say generally we'll have things be seconded as well. So for those that are suggesting February 12th and March 4th, if they get a second, then we'll go ahead and do a vote on those and see where the votes lie after that. Okay, so I'm seeing a pretty even split between February 26th and March 4th. See if Eric has something to say real quick, or see what he has to say real quick.
I'm responding to a question. I apologize.
No problem. Just wanted to verify. Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna make a post in the motions and votes, the CC motions and votes chat, and then just go ahead and respond after the post with your vote for either February 26th or March 4th. I'll give everyone just another minute or two, and then we'll tally up the votes. Okay, I have a final count of February 26th for 13 and March 4th for 8. Okay, so the next meeting will be February 26th at 7 p.m. They are all standard at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Okie dokie. So the first proposal we have to go over on the agenda is Lexark's proposal. That is to authorize the chapter council to, or not the chapter council, the board of directors of Dagger Here to seek out and implement necessary means to accept online payments and processing. Overall, this is intended to allow them just to accept payments through PayPal, Cash App, those kind of means. We're going to open the floor for discussion. So if you have something you want to say as far as this first proposal, go ahead and put a hand in the CC meeting chat, and they will be recognizing you can say your piece on this first proposal. Go ahead, Tamorn.
Given that Kyrax is not here, if you all have any questions, I can field them as well. Cook, the only downside to accepting payments online is the percentage that we're going to lose per transaction. Pretty much every processing platform has its own set of fees. The discussion between myself, Kyrax, and other members of the board has been pretty much any way that we can draw funds, even if we lose a certain percentages, not going to be a bad thing. We want to use as many different platforms as possible that allows the most freedom for as many different people to utilize that as much as possible. So pretty much the only downside is there is not an upfront financial burden, but a per transaction financial burden.
I do see a couple typing, so I'm going to give them a moment.
Rody, that's actually a really good question that Kyrex and I have discussed. Most of these platforms have pretty tightly integrated financial reporting systems that tie into all sorts of databases, QuickBooks, TurboTax. They all generate 1099s and other tax forms for you at the end of the year. It's all very easy to integrate. So from a bookkeeping standpoint, it's actually super simple. One of the big things about it is that it makes it so we don't have to worry about dealing with, paper receipts and stuff like that. Given that we're really just looking for online processing and then the ability to actually accept on site with some of the platforms like PayPal and Venmo and stuff like that. But in a modern society, it simplifies things, and it integrates very easily with our current banking institutions. To be perfectly honest, the proposal put forth just allows us to even do it at all. Without the chapter council authorizing the BOD to do this, we have no way of gathering money. We will obviously stick with the most trafficked and most popular versions. So you're going to have things like PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, and the like. We're not looking into a dedicated credit card processing system for our own merchant account because we don't really need it. We're going to be piggybacking off of the existing systems of those platforms. If you get your own merchant account, you basically have to pay for it up front, and we don't have the money to do that, so we got to do it this way. But we'll be starting with probably the big three. One of the other major advantages of doing something like this is the ability to transfer from one part of an organization to another. Um, if we switch banks, we can transfer through a lot of those processes as well. Or if we have an asset that we later sell off, we can transfer that way as well. Um, Pretty much in the modern world, everything goes electronically and on a 24-hour basis. So we're just playing catch up. Yeah, also, all of the platforms offer easy bookkeeping within. So generating quarterly reports, monthly reports, daily reports, annual reports, and stuff like that becomes much easier when it's all integrated within platforms, as long as all the active platforms are reported correctly, which should not be a problem for anybody because it's very user friendly.
Okay. Any further comments on the first proposal? Go ahead, Olaf.
Yes. You guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm all for it. I would like, before they go through with the plan, I'd like to see kind of a report or a detailed plan before they decide on exactly what they're doing, so we have more of an idea. I don't mind giving them kind of free reign or anything like that, but I still would like to see detailed reports like, hey, we're doing PayPal, Cash App, and all that. I'd like to see the pros and cons of that before, and then for us to be able to vote on that again. I mean, I know it slows the process. I just think that it would be better for us if we have other people looking at it as well.
Go ahead, Zuckard.
So, responding to Olaf there, I think that from at least for the main three that you mentioned, Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, those are probably able to be put into place pretty much immediately. And I don't know if we need like a huge roadmap, but to a point, I don't want to overthink it because then we start getting into the weeds. And as long as we're adhering to the terms of service for each service and implementing it in the site in a way that is easy for the user to follow, we should be good there. I don't really anticipate there needing to be a long drawn out process for that stuff. But if we do want to start taking like credit card payments and that sort of thing, then a more technical plan or diagram can be part of the equation there.
I'd like to respond. That's fair enough, man. That makes sense. Thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead, Timorn.
Olaf, do you have any particular concerns that are driving that question? Like, is there a particular platform that you would say have a problem with, that you've had a bad experience in the past or anything, or is it just a general you're not familiar with how they work type of thing?
If I could respond real quick, I know
Yeah.
somebody else got a hand up. Uh, yeah, I mean, I've done some processing through for Ragnarok and stuff like that. I know we're not using a processing company. I know PayPal can be kind of a nightmare, but I mean, I do use it as well. I'm just saying, I just think we just want to be careful. But I mean, That was my only thought. I just wanted to make sure. Plus, I wanted to know, how is this going to be put in? Is this going to be put into the bylaws that we're accepting? And how is that going to be worded? I think that's more along the lines of what I'm looking for as well too. How, because we're going to put this in the bylaws, correct? Not the details of what we're doing, but possibly how it's worded, how we could accept donations. Is that being put into the bylaws?
Per the way the current proposal is put together, it's just granting them authorization. It's not put into the bylaws for the rule's sake. It's just, hey, you guys now have permission to do this per the chapter council.
Can I respond to that one?
Sure.
Okay, so it's already in the bylaws.
Oh, that's right.
Chapter
You're right.
council has
Right.
the ability. That's why we're having this vote, is because without your permission, we can't do this.
Okay.
It does not specify which particular platform, but that would also be one of the things that, to be perfectly honest, you would have a 17-page document on just which processing platforms are out there if you did put it into the bylaws. There are literally 1,000 different processing platforms. We are not looking for obscure ones. We're not looking for off-the-wall ones. We're not looking for ones that give us money back for processing things. We're looking at just the easiest, most popular, most secure ways to bring money in. This doesn't even cover any money going out. That's a whole separate review process on the chapter council's part. This is just to allow us safe, secure financial transactions in.
All right.
Over.
Tenrio has had a hand up for a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and let them speak.
Everybody hear me okay?
Yes, a little quiet, but I can hear you.
So I'm not sure if this was already covered, but someone discussed like someone discussed like fees related to using these. Would we be looking at like a possible increase in pricing if somebody chose to maybe sign up for Ragnarok through one of those means, just to kind of cover the offset of those fees?
Ragnarok
Like
is
a wait and
actually
see
a
thing?
completely separate entity. It's a different
Gotcha.
actual company than Dagger here.
Okay.
As far as raising prices on certain things, given that we don't have any actual merchandise that we're trying to sell, we would of course take those things into consideration before trying to sell them. But given that the sales of them are pretty much going to be online and through credit card transactions anyways, it's not like you'd have a different price at an event to something that's being bought from an online web store, because we won't actually have, there is no plan to have physical merchandise in a warehouse anywhere. We're not planning on stockpiling anything or having merch on site. This is basically just to allow us to do things like put up a GoFundMe, have a donation site, have a subscription for people that want to support the organization on a monthly basis, or if somebody just wants to make a donation to the organization itself. It allows us a means with which to receive that, other than somebody writing out a paper check, sending it to the executive director, who then forwards it to the director of records to make a photocopy, who then sends it to the director of finance to put it in the actual bank. If somebody can just type in their credit card and say, boom, here's $150, Merry Christmas. It simplifies all of that. I hate to say it, it sounds like there's a lot of confusion on what this is. All this is to allow us to bring money in. And all of those companies do in fact take a cut because they don't charge a monthly fee. We're not looking at anybody that has a $750 setup fee for the initial account and then a $150 monthly service fee like Card Services of America. PayPal takes anywhere between 2.7% and 9.8%, depending on the nature of your business. Venmo, I think, is currently at 3.7%, and Cash App, I think, is at 4.2 the last time I checked. So there is a small percentage per transaction that is removed from the amount coming in. So if somebody gives us $100, we only get 96. They don't pay an additional fee or anything else like that, but that's part of doing business. Over.
Okay.
Thank you.
You.
Thanks. Go ahead, Trent.
Hi. So I think I get what he's saying, and it makes a lot of sense. And I mean, transaction fees are just part of moving money nowadays. Like if anywhere you move money, you're gonna have fees, whether it's taking in credit cards or taking in PayPal. I mean, everyone's got to pay taxes somewhere, somehow, or pay somebody. And I think it's not a bad idea to have the ability for Dagger to take in donations. I mean, it could help them, do other things. And then also, I know they don't want to do have a warehouse full of Dagger Here T-shirts, but per se they could, batch them and say, hey, if you send in your money, we're gonna batch every couple months and get a batch of T-shirts, and we could actually have merch and not keep merchandise on hand. But I think this is a great idea, and it could definitely help Dagger Here in the long run.
Thank you, Trent. For per the bylaws, the way that they're currently stated, any funding has to be approved through the chapter council, and so that's why we're currently doing this. If there's going to be merch later on, that is something that has to be discussed on a separate setup. But
Yeah,
I understand where
I
you're
got
coming
that. I just agree.
from. Perfect. Any final comments? Brody, go ahead.
Sorry, can't spell. I mean, I just think, again, to clarify, this is just about setting up the structure that could be in place and no decisions on how funding, what would be collected for what. It's more enabling you guys to have those funding mechanisms in place. So when you do decide to run a campaign or sell merchandise, it's already there, correct?
Yes, it's simply just, hey, they're going to open up a PayPal account, they're going to open up a Venmo, and they're going to have a avenue for if Tiverus decides he wants to send Dag $50 just out of the goodness of his heart, there's a road for that to happen. Go ahead, Timorn.
All right, as far as the previous PayPal account, I don't know if that's going to cause us a problem or not. I'll have to get with you separately or have Kyrax get with you separately, Ericos.
Sure.
I don't know how you set it up, whether it was set up as the
I didn't set it up.
nonprofit.
I didn't set it up. That's actually the problem.
Okay.
I
We'll
tried to
we'll
set up
we'll
a new
talk about
one.
that separately, because that may be a roadblock for that particular platform, which can be
Agreed,
dealt
it
with
will be.
solely. As far as with Rhodey, one of the other things that I do want to point out, just so that there is total transparency on this, this allows the BOD to move forward in a way that we deem fit as a business to collect monies in. So there won't necessarily be a discussion on every point. If we decide to set up I'm just going to drop a couple examples here, a donation port where people can just donate money to the organization. We're not going to be asking the chapter council for permission to do that. That is part of what you all will be voting on here. It will allow us to do donations, legal defense, basic operating costs. This does cost us money to run, things like the website and everything else like that. This just allows us a revenue stream in. Now, if we do decide to try and merchandise any Dagger Here apparel, bumper stickers, mugs, whatever, that is actually selling of a product, and that does have to go before the chapter council because that is going to have it has certain ramifications for the use of the IP. So allowing just monies to come in for no tangible product going out is something that is going to be at our discretion, but anything that relates to any form of a physical product, whether it's a rule book, a printed rule book, mugs, stuff like that, merch. That is all stuff that the chapter council will have a definite say on moving forward. Are there any questions regarding that?
Go ahead, Rody.
Would that also include like special one-off projects? Like if you decided to do a GoFundMe, I know you wouldn't do this, but let's send the board of directors to France to study Dagger Here there. I mean, those sort of things would have to still be approved through the chapter council, special one-off or fundraisers.
Yes, because anytime we spend money from these funds, we would have to get approval within a certain reasonable expectation. If it's something like paying the web hosting bill that we've already established, that's not a big deal. But if we need to, even if it's something so simple as purchasing an airline ticket for myself to fly out to Arizona to meet with Kyrax to actually sign some documentation with the banking so that they physically have me present because that's a requirement that they may decide to do, that would have to get approved. So, any trips to France or something like that would definitely be one of those things. But even the minor expenses, and I'm pretty sure it's like, I want to say $300. I could be way off on that amount. But it's pretty low. So yeah, that's all I got on that.
Thank you. So we're kind of in the weeds, unless there's anything else specific that's related to the proposal. I know this has kind of gone off. I do appreciate the conversation. But we'll go ahead and move forward to the next point. I'll have a post made for the vote on this over the next 2 weeks. So let's get to the next proposal. This is my proposal. This is to open the elections for the election officer with the following conditions: to have a list of candidates available by the next chapter council meeting, which is now established as February 26th. Just a way for us to move forward. The bylaw state we're going to be doing annual elections. We have this all set up. First, we need to have an election coordinator to kind of head this project. Do we have any comments or questions as far as the third agenda item? Okay, I don't see any other further comments, just the one from Karad. And yeah, this is just something we need to get done and we just need to move forward with in order to have the elections done in a timely manner by the expected dates as set forth in the bylaws. We'll go ahead and move forward with the next proposal. This is actually, I'm going to be rescinding this one since we did move forward the way that we have. The original agenda item was to direct the BOD to seek out legal counsel regarding the threats made against National DAG. There were going to be some hangups and blocks in order to get that done. Hence the posting of the questions in order to seek what the reps wanted to do moving forward as far as how to respond to this situation at large. So I'm going to be rescinding that one as a proposal and just wanted to have that. I don't want to have confusion later on if somebody went back and looked at it and said, oh, there was a proposal made here. Whatever happened to it? I wanted that to be explicit and stated here. Go ahead, Timorn.
So are you saying the chapter council does not wish to pursue that matter, or that you wish to just remove your proposal from the docket?
I am removing my proposal from the docket.
Understood.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I saw there was value in this if we were going to try and pursue these avenues and try and get outside information first. I then asked the questions on how do we want to proceed, and there was a very clear message of let's get it done and move forward. And so I'm going to rescind that and move that off of the chapter council docket. Go ahead.
All right, so just to clarify, this organization has received legal notice of a potential moving forward with legal action against us, and we have no direction as to whether or not to seek legal counsel to defend. That is where we stand right now. We have received legal notice from an attorney stating that their client will seek litigation against the organization.
part of my reasoning for it was, so depending on how the next couple steps go, if there's a situation, like I understand, but we have the 0.6 still there, the dominance reversal by vote. I understand that we did get legal notice, and if we have issue with the next set of discussions, then I'll go ahead and have, like, we can put it back on there. This is just something else. And if there's other people that say, hey, let's leave it on there and continue, then we can do that too. Go ahead, Tenryu. I see your comment as well, Hodor. Sorry.
I would say maybe don't like totally rescind it from the meeting, but maybe push it back towards the end of the meeting, because I would imagine if it does come to a decision being made that he's unbanned, I'm sure that whatever that legal action is probably going to be retracted.
Okay. And
so,
it,
you know.
Right. And at the end of the day, this is just to have a vote to say yes or no. So even if we say yes, we're going to leave it on the agenda and we just vote on it over the next 2 weeks, that's completely fine. It could get shot down because, hey, everything was resolved and there are no further issues, or at least the chapter reps don't feel like there are further issues in order to be investigated.
Yeah,
so go ahead, Timorn. I saw you had a comment as well.
The specific wording of the demand letter was that if the BOD did not rescind their ban, legal action would be taken. Chapter council reversal by vote is not the BOD.
Okay. Then with the current discussion, the way it's going, I will leave it on the docket. We'll go ahead and have the vote over the next 2 weeks. We'll leave the rest of the discussion for this agenda as it is. And that way, if the chapter council decides that we need to move forward with that and investigate those, then we can still do that. Any further comments in that regard? Okay. Agenda item 5 was Monty's proposal. That was in order to create a system for MOA changes and to have them be conducted over 2 separate meetings. Do we have any comments on that? I do see Hodor is typing. If you would like to just say it in voice, you can do that as well, if it's a pretty lengthy comment.
There's a bylaw committee looking at proposing the changes, going over different ideas. I propose that we table this and ask Monty to join that committee. Over.
Thank you. I don't know that we have a system in place for doing that explicitly just yet, unless Monty is here, or I believe Cook is here. They could speak on behalf of it on how they want to move forward. If it does get shot down, there is the opportunity for it to be brought up again later, but I do agree that we do have a committee currently discussing how to move forward with this. Okay, tabled until next meeting per Cook. Okay. So now we'll be moving on to the dominance reversal by vote. I'm going to be upfront about how this is going to work overall. So it was at the request of the arbiter of Reacher that he will not be discussing this openly as far as for this meeting. If you are someone here wishing to put comment or be part of the discussion overall, that's fine, and we welcome you here and are happy to have you as far as any comments you wish to give, but there will be 2 sections for this portion. There's going to be this open forum that we'll have the discussion for it. We'll still maintain the same rules as far as put a hand in the chat. You'll be recognized. Depending on how the conversation goes, we'll maintain a controlled discussion for the situation. Once that has concluded, the chapter council will then move to an executive closed meeting in order to further discuss it, and then it will be voted on over the next 2 weeks. Ericos is asking what specific vote will be taken. The vote will be whether or not to reverse the ban or not. That was a way that the chapter reps had indicated they wish to go. Tenryu, you had a hand.
Yes, so I just have a couple points I wanted to make on that. People have probably seen me and Damon have had pretty extensive conversations about this in the group chat. So I kind of looked at the code of conduct under the harassment, deliberate intimidation, because I will definitely secede that he is deliberately intimidating people in regards to like the legal action and stuff. I feel like that was kind of a jump ahead of where it needed to be. But my main question, and I think it will not be able to be answered because of what you said regarding how Reacher is going to handle this. It says that attendees who are asked to stop any of this behavior and do not shall have corrective action taken against them. So I wonder, is there any documentation of him being asked to stop acting in that way? And most of the evidence that people have given have objectively just show that he can be an abrasive personality. I don't know if everything people are bringing up is intimidation and like just hateful speech or whatever, but I think that a lot of this is being taken way too seriously. But I do think that my personal opinion, he should be unbanned and a verbal warning should be given to him. That way, if he continues acting that way, that people are getting pretty upset, then there's already documentation that he was discussed with it, and then a potential ban could be pursued, and nobody could really argue against it, if that makes sense.
Yes. Do you have anything further?
No, sir.
Thank you. Go ahead to Morn.
If I'm not mistaken, the chapter council voted to have a discussion on this matter, not to have the vote yet. That would happen after the discussion. If somebody proposes to have the vote, then it would move forward. If I'm not mistaken, though, the vote, I'm pretty sure, was to have this discussion tonight and not through a separate meeting. Not to actually go through with a vote to reverse the ban. That would be a separate proposal.
So under the intent for the question, so when I had proposed those questions or asked those questions of the chapter reps, the chapter council reps, I think I had it included that it said discuss and vote. But I can go back and look for it as well. Go ahead, Ericos, you had a hand. I'm going to look for that post as well.
Sure. So I just want to throw out a couple things for consideration. Thank you, Reacher, for posting the arbiter decision. I forget what term you used. The ban suspension process. If people are willing to open that up and scroll down to the rubric, which Reacher you did at one point say you would post the rubric. I understand you're not wanting to post it. The 5 independent metrics. So relevant information documentation. It starts out with, of course, a conviction, indictment, and on down to tribal knowledge, and basically hearsay. I can't imagine there is any convictions on Dominus for any of his actions in Dagger here. Second, types of crimes and offenses, going from very serious rape crimes down to very non-serious crimes, as well as whether they're personal types of crimes or they're non-personal types of crimes, like embezzlement or so on and so forth. Once again, I don't imagine he's done any of these things, and if he had, I think we'd know about it. Third area, seriousness. We talk about whether it's a felony, a violation of the code of conduct, misdemeanor, or no criminal charge. In relation to Dagger here, that's where it's planned, publicized events or related activities and so forth. That's arguably, of course, that's when things would occur. And impact to Dagger here, last but not least, we're talking about likely to have significant impact, damage to game, events, site use, and reputation, on down to no impact. So my question would be, if we talk about the rubric and we talk about how this would be viewed on the stoplight scale, red, yellow, green, I don't imagine any scenario where this actually looks like something that would be even a suspension, much less a ban. If we move along to lifelong achievements and contributions to the game, I've said this before, and I don't think people actually understand. Without Dominus, I don't actually think there would be a Dagger here anymore. I know that a lot of people don't have the historic knowledge, haven't been playing with him for 40 years and so forth. But quite frankly, without Dominus, I'm not sure Dagger here would even exist. And I have reason to believe it might not exist. He's served as the Ragnarok event coordinator in the past, Ragnarok accountant. And here's a fun one for you. How does a person become the Ragnarok I'm sorry, I lost a brain there. So at Ragnarok, we have War Council meetings, the RWC. And one of the things that's elected every year for the next year is the Ragnarok War Council chair. Now, that chair is voted on by the units of Dagger, by the chapters of Dagger here. And time again, Dominus has been unanimously nominated as the Ragnarok War Council chair. If this hatred for him was so pervasive and so universal and so serious of an issue, why on earth would the chapters of Dagger here continuously vote for him unanimously to chair the Rag War Council? That's a fun one I want people to try to figure out and wrap your minds around. And another question for you to consider, if, will this litigation be limited and confined to just DBGA? Or might it extend past that? I actually don't know the answer to that. I'm just throwing it out there as a food for thought. And I want to close with, look, I'm not a Dominus cheerleader. We're not best friends. We are friends. But he has a way of being a bit of an asshole at times. And we can all admit that. And I think a lot of us have a way of being a bit of an asshole at times. But he's our asshole. He's like our guy. He has been, for 40 years, putting his time and energy, his blood, sweat, and tears, literally, to growing Dagger here, making Dagger here better, and sharing this game with thousands of people personally, he himself. And I know some of you have probably never even met him in person, probably never had a conversation with him. Some of you may not have been around for the last 40 years. I would imagine very few of you have. If you have been around him, and if you do actually take the time to have a conversation with him and get to know him, he's a pretty friendly guy. And he only gets his heckles up when something he loves and has put his time and energy into is being threatened. By that, I am referring specifically to Dagger here and Ragnarok. So I just want you to think about, when we're voting on this, what actually has Dominus done to you? What actually have you witnessed firsthand? What was done or said that was actually a problem or threatening or intimidation versus passion? So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ericos. Go ahead. I think it's Eisen.
Yeah, hi. Am I coming through all right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I just want to preface this by saying I don't even know Dominus. I met him one time. It was fine. I had no problems with him, but I kind of wanted everyone to kind of hear kind of how all of Antioch feels about this whole situation. I wouldn't even have spoke on this because it doesn't really I don't really care. But the thing I care about is that the community finally has some say in things nowadays. You know, we've switched. We've all worked together to try to, you know, get some control and have our voices heard. And it saddens all of us that the first thing people start doing is trying to ban people that they don't like. Um, I don't even know Dominus, and I don't care, but I know that he's done nothing um, to such a degree that we should people should be out trying to burn him at the stake. I don't understand when this community has decided that instead of being inclusive and friendly and caring, that we would do stuff like this. We're supposed to be a group of nerds, right? We are here. God, I hate that I'm saying safe place, but this is something that we all care about, and I think instead of burning bridges, we should all be looking to build them. Our sports, whether people want to admit it or not, is kind of dying, and I think it'd be a good idea for us to start trying to extend the olive branch instead of starting little wars here and there. And just, I think we should, the fact that this is even on the table as a vote is pretty weird to me. We have so much bigger fish to fry and things to work out, and we're going at a snail's pace. So it's ridiculous that I mean I just believe and feel that it's a little ridiculous that we're even discussing this. So I just wanted you guys to kind of feel how we're at. Like I feel like the community should be a little more loving, and we should be out there trying to make our sport a little better. And yeah, you know, I don't mean any ill will towards anybody if you're like feel bad about my statement, but that's all I really wanted to say.
Thank you. Go ahead, Damon.
Mic check 1 2 1 2.
I can hear you.
Cool. So obviously, I think people know where I stand on the Dominus thing, and it's pretty apparent what he's done. Excuse me, unless you've lived under a rock. I know Dominus. I've been in the game for a long time now, and seen all the stuff he's done. So I'm going to hit on a couple things people have said already. As far as the rubric, that is all how the person interprets it. So if we went like we've already talked about, Erica said, okay, we have an affidavit, formal, sworn, notarized. Those could be the statements. That's a yellow mark. We can go to other crimes. Violation of code of conduct. Dominus was and held many positions of power in this game. When you hold a position of power, you are held to a higher standard. Period. Now let's go to seriousness. Could it be a violation of code of conduct, harassment policy, what he's done in the past? Sure. Misdemeanor, same as harassment. He's had a continuous pattern of harassment, talking poorly about volunteers, threatening people, and I'm not sure how threatening people and talking poorly about volunteers is making this place a safe place. So we technically would be looking at maybe one yellow, maybe another yellow, another red. Statements he has made on official Daggahir social media. The threat to the arbiter, that's a red. Potential impact to Daggahir, likely cause game reputation to Daggahir. People have left the game because of Dominus. That's another red. So you're looking at 4, maybe 4, 3 reds, 2 yellows. And based on this rubric, that's up for a ban. And again, we talk about his passion for the game. I don't think passion is an excuse for harassing or threatening people. And that's just how it is. And I'm going to be finished.
Thank you. Go ahead. I believe Reacher was next.
Sorry, I forgot which way I had myself muted. Trying to go back up here and remember what I was going to discuss about. The executive committee. I just wanted to remind people that everybody here involved, since there's a lot of questions over that executive session, the very first time last March, or I believe it was back then, that was how we decided to proceed in order to protect any potential sensitive information and protect the organization as much as possible from any type of additional litigation, threats or otherwise. In the meantime, in order to keep the information as limited as possible, just for that reason. I see a bunch of questions, a bunch of people that are, for lack of a better term, not sharing correct information here about how the law works. Um, Guys, I highly recommend y'all go talk to a lawyer. It's amazing. um, you know, it does work this way. If I go out and say, Timarone, I'm going to use your example. Just I'm going to use you as somebody that somebody already knows. If I go out and say Timarone robbed Belgroth for $1,000, guess what? That, whether it's true or not, I put that out into the world. That is now libel or slander that I said. I can't do that. I represent the business side of this organization from a player safety standpoint. I can't go out there and say so and so did this publicly. That opens us up and me for lawsuits. I will not do that. That's what I'm trying to explain to y'all. That's my piece on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe it was Rhodey had the next hand.
Thank you. I'm gonna completely put the what happens with Dominus thing to one side in terms of if we're gonna have a discussion on specifics later. But I do want to point out that I was part of the discussion when we were first talking about setting up the arbiter and you know what would constitute something that would permanently lifetime ban something from the game. And we tried really hard to think, how can we keep it from ever becoming political or personal? And it's more, it was supposed to be more about criminal negligence and safety. You know, people specifically mentioned child predators or giving alcohol or, you know, to minors or passing out drugs in an event. You know, it was supposed to be really more about that. And my bigger concern, again, setting Dominus aside, is the precedent of something of this that is more subjective and less about, you know, trying to really keep people physically safe in the game. And this is my biggest concern overall, sort of the more subjective idea of the code of conduct, or, you know, oh, it's a danger to dagger here because of, you know, people are leaving the game. That to me is more subjective. You know, an objective thing is, did this guy get a 16-year-old drunk at an encampment, and we could potentially, you know, people's safety is at risk. So that's my biggest concern about the overall way this is being approached at this time. And thank you for listening.
Yep. I think Bernor was the next. And there's been a lot of conversation, so if I do miss something, please let me know, and I will do my best to keep it on straight. You should be able to right-click on your name on the CC meeting voice, and then there should be a mute checkbox that you can uncheck.
Close out Discord.
Yeah.
Close out Discord, log back in, and it should reset that. Try force closing it through your task manager.
I also apologize. I think I missed a comment by Hodor. We'll let Bernor speak, and then we'll have you next. Sorry about that.
I'm not even seeing him, Brainor, in the
I think he closed it.
chat list.
I think he closed it and he's coming back.
Okay.
He just messaged me. I'll try and get him straight.
Yeah, if his reboot doesn't work, I'll give him extra privileges, and hopefully that'll unlock it.
All right, hold on a second. Let me try and send him a new link. Might need to just rejoin.
He has appeared in the public meeting room. Okay, now he's back down here.
Hey.
Hey.
I dragged him in here.
Oh, thank you. I could hear you as well, Baranor.
Okay. Sorry about that. Sorry for any delay to the meeting. I apologize, and also for being late. I just really wanted to mention for all the voices that aren't here. If you've read the chat, I posted about Abraham Wald. It's something that we really get taught in the military when we're trying to make plans and mitigate risk factors, etc. World War II, there's a bunch of bombers coming back. They had to put armor on the bombers to save lives and get the bombers on target. And when they came, they saw and did a study on where the bullet holes were on surviving bombers. Most of them wanted to put armor, because they couldn't put it on the whole plane, where the bullet holes were. Abraham Wald spoke up and said that we should put armor on places where there were no bullet holes. For those were the planes that were not making their way back. They were the ones being shot down. I've heard a lot of voices from people still in the game. This is the only Dagger Hero event I go to now. There are none where I live. Indiana, I think the only Dagger Hero events are like Ohio and East now, because everybody that I know, West, is playing Belagarth. And for me, I don't fully care. It's phone, sword, dork battle that I get to hang out with my friend. If you know me, you know all I really care about is having fun, making sure people are safe, loved, and just connected to the game. Whatever the game decides to call itself. And you can ask Sir Timorn and a few others, especially those I met at Ragnarok this year. I was very sad, very depressed. Don't tell the army I have depression. Because it's this game that is a part of my life showed me that I can be who I want to be. I can be out about my different social proclivities that I can't be out about in public because of the military. It allowed me to be a leader in a way I didn't feel like I could before. Now I am in the army, but that's besides the point. This allowed me to be who I could be, and if you guys know how much I love this game, if for some reason my name becomes a problem of anything where people are trying to leave this game, if they're like, well, Baranor is the reason that our whole chapter is leaving, kick me out of the game. I don't give a shit. Sorry, probably shouldn't cuss right now. I want people to have this space to love and be loved. And anybody who truly loves the game, if there's even the slightest, okay, I wouldn't say slightest, if one butthurt person gets mad because I kick them off the field because they do 12 o'clocks and knock someone unconscious, whatever. But when it's whole states and regions of the country that are leaving, and we're not hearing those voices because they won't even come back, we have parts of our camp that are named for people that aren't coming back at Ragnarok. Rune Hill, he ain't coming back. I've talked to them. It's like, hey, if we fix every single problem, would you guys ever come back, or your chapter, or recommend it to people? They said no. So I know I don't have too much of an opinion here. I know most of you don't really. Okay, Oklahoma, Missouri, are those just I don't know maps. Are those close to me? But to summarize what I'm saying, I think we should. The fact that there are not a lot of voices from those people that have left, and I know I'm not the Lorax, but I'm the only one really from that area that's in here. It's a problem. So that's all I wanted to say. Let's figure this crap out and get it back to where we wanted it to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Hodor, I had skipped your comment. Go ahead.
There's somebody named Hodor. Sorry, that was awesome. I'll shut up.
My comment is towards Rachel when he said that there is executive meeting. That was prior to us getting rid of the chapter council having to vote for bans. We got rid of that. Everything should be in the open. In the bylaws that says that the sensitive information should be removed. So my question to you is, why are we still having a closed door meeting when that is no longer the reason why we have it in place? We get removed that. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe Reacher is next.
I was just going to say if I could just quickly respond.
Yeah, go for it.
Just pretty much the same thing I said previously, man. I will not put out publicly potentially ugly information about somebody. Exactly what Corral just mentioned. Legality. I mean, you're welcome to put your neck out there, and I do what I can, but it's legality, man. I don't want my ass sued. Do you?
Thank you. Did you have anything further, or?
I do.
Yeah,
On that particular note, according to the bylaws, you guys removed your ability to vote on it. You did not allow yourselves any ability to see any pertinent information. You asked for discussion on this particular matter, and that's what we're doing now. That still does not entitle anybody in the chapter council to any of the sensitive information. Our bylaws are pretty specific. It is our job to protect said information. There's no reason for us to show it. If you don't like what you're shown here and you decide to reverse the vote because of that, that's your call. But the BOD is legally responsible for the actions of this organization. The chapter council is not. The chapter council is not recognized by the Articles of Incorporation of this nonprofit. You're only named in the bylaws. You have no legal responsibility to any of this information. Every member of the board of directors does. And for that reason, you are not going to receive any of the sensitive information in a public forum. The fact that Reacher is willing to provide some of these in a closed door executive session is because this is such a hot button issue and you all have specifically requested as much information as he is willing to give you. But I do need to point out the bylaws are specific. Reacher is the one that makes this decision, and if you all don't like it, you have the ability to reverse it by vote. This is not an appeal in any way, shape, or form. This is you all deciding whether or not you agree that the arbiter has done their job. Over.
Thank you. Tenryu, I believe you are next.
I have a quick question for clarity.
Sure.
So, what you're saying is we're getting some sensitive information that we shouldn't be getting based on the bylaws because of this is a high priority or a VIP ban. Is that what I'm understanding? Over.
Reacher, do you want to field that or do you want me to?
I'm sorry. Was that directed at me? I couldn't catch all that. I had somebody jump in my lap.
All right, so I'll go ahead and handle it since you didn't catch the question. Reacher is willing to share some information that may be considered sensitive, but only in a private manner with just the chapter council. And that's basically for privacy's sake. It's not because it's a high profile or anything else like that or a VIP. There is no VIP status of a ban or a suspension. This is just the chapter council specifically stating that they have doubts as to the performance of the arbiter. And he's going to provide you with much information as he is comfortable sharing. And that's what you're going to be given. Over.
One more question. Is that not in itself breaking the bylaws under your interpretation? Come on. Thank you.
I can't answer that because I haven't seen the information he's going to provide you. I am just as much in the dark with what Reacher is going to do in a closed door session as anybody else. I am not the arbiter. I have not been part of this case. I've been privy to certain bits of information, but a lot of that has been due to my own being contacted by other individuals or me contacting them. Because part of my job is to make sure that the board of directors is in fact doing their job. So I have contacted certain individuals asking them if they were treated correctly, if they were respected, and other things. But I don't know what he plans on showing you, so I can't answer as to whether or not this is going to be acceptable. It is entirely possible that Reacher may do something or share something that I do not agree with. I can't answer it until it happens. Over.
I do want to say, and thank you, Tenryu, for being very patient, that a lot of this is uncharted territory. Like, the bylaws were written and put together and were as robust as they are, but as far as what information is released, that a lot of that is, like, we had decided, hey, we don't want to see, as a chapter council, the vote and the rubric and the write-up. That was for those parties. So this is all, if it needs something to be codified and we want to try and go into those murky waters on the legality of it, then that's a further conversation. But for now, this is all up to the person in charge of that position. Tenryu, thank you for your patience, by the way.
Yeah, no problem. So, first of all, Reacher, up until your most recent comment, I wasn't really kind of following you, but I get it now. I totally understand. It's your head's on the line, not ours, when it comes to releasing information regarding this stuff. So I understand that. I do have one question. I hope maybe you can answer it. Is there any previous documented disciplinary action against Dominus and however long he's been playing the game? What, like 40 years? Do you mind answering that real quick if you can? I don't need
I've been a member of the Aratari for almost 40 years, and I've played with Dominus almost 40 years. On the field, he's been my biggest opponent, and we've literally spent years trying to figure out how to beat them, and we do anyway, sometimes regularly. Anyway, long story short, there's never been anything in Dagger here brought against him or any kind of issues that I'm aware of. Anybody has anything else, that'd be great.
Is that correct, Reacher? If you can answer that.
I'll respond. This was my only case with him.
Okay. Then I think, obviously my opinion is sort of the lesser of the two. It seems there's a lot of complaints against him, a lot more than what would be considered just people being, for lack of a better term, butthurt about him being abrasive. But without any documented stuff in the history against him, I would say maybe just give him one more chance. Give him an option to maybe shape up how he talks to people, how he interacts with others, and if he screws up again, that's it.
I have insight into this.
Oh, please.
All right, so I'm Timorn, for those of you all that don't know. I've known Dominus for 30 years. I've been on the field on his side. I've been on the field opposite his side. I've witnessed him personally do some pretty shady stuff. I've seen him in multiple formats, multiple games. I know that he personally is not welcome in other game systems. That he has been asked never to attend Darkon, another large LARP in the greater Washington area.
That's not true.
I'm sorry.
When so, do you have documentation of that? I
Do
was
I
in this. I
do
was
I
in a
do I
meeting.
personally have documentation? I'm sure I could get some from Darkon themselves.
That'd be awesome. I've been in a meeting before where they railroaded him.
All right, okay, so first off, let me finish speaking before interrupting. I'm giving my perspective on this. You asked for other people who've known him for a very long time, and I'm giving my side of the things. I also need to point out that regardless of whether or not somebody has a history within this organization, which was never handled from a national level until the last 18 months, it was all handled from inside Eritari. That Eritari has always protected their own. There's a reason that you hear rumors of the Good Old Boys Club, because there has always been a Good Old Boys Club. There have been many instances over the years of those outside of the organization, outside of that home area, not being welcome into anything else. So basically, now that everything is expanded to a national perspective, sometimes you have people that have gotten away with bullshit for a very long time get called out on their actions. Now, regardless of whether or not this is a first time, an only time, or a recurring thing, a complaint specifically was made about Dominus and his activities. His activities specifically led to something that harmed this organization in a very serious way. I can tell you for a fact that over 60 volunteers did not attend Ragnarok this past year because of his actions. An entire unit left the game. You lost the secretary, the head of Troll, you lost the merchant coordinator, and the event coordinator. All to that, you lost a major nightlife or a nightlife event at it, all because specifically Dominus's behavior towards other people. A well-documented thing. We have other games in place specifically because of how Dominus has treated people for years. Hearthlight is a prime example. The people from Hearthlight really didn't like how they were treated. When people like Dominus come out and start blasting people for having legitimate concerns, that drives people away from the game. I'm going to point out a very specific number. Ragnarok had in attendance some 330 plus people in attendance this year. The event prior to that was closer to 1,500. That is an 80% decrease in attendance numbers. All the other LARPs and similar organizations have in fact shown a decrease in attendance due to COVID and the COVID protocols of roughly 20%. So before anybody says Ragnarok tanked this past year because of COVID, you're full of shit. You do not have an 80% decrease in population due to something. That was due specifically to the behavior of one individual. And I've spoken to the event coordinator, the former secretary, the head of Troll, the merchant coordinator, multiple merchants, lots of people that no longer play Dagger here. And they've specifically said because that person is still in a position of power, that person is still speaking for the organization online, and that no actions were taken against said individual. They were not held accountable. They up and left the game. Plain and simple. That is irreparable harm. Now, people keep pointing back to the bylaws, stating that the bylaws were specifically stating that these were supposed to be major crimes. That's leaving out the third and final word about what should be considered for a ban. And that is engaging in risk management and behavior that harms the organization. That is specifically what has happened here. He hasn't been convicted of anything. He hasn't committed any crime. He has caused irreparable damage to this game. He has caused financial hardship to multiple people. He has damaged the reputation with our site owners. Plain and simple. If we don't get the numbers for Ragnarok up this year, they're not going to have us back. Ragnarok is hanging on by a thread at this point in time. It's a question of, you've been dealing with this for years. Has Dominus done a lot of good for this sport? Yes. Has he done anything good for this sport in the last 10 years? Not that I've seen. He's caused more harm in 10 years than the good he did in the 30 prior. Plain and simple. That's all I have to say on that.
Okay, I'm gonna rein it in a little bit. Yeah, this was actually your hand, Tenryu. So if you want to finish up your comment.
Yeah, so I guess that's definitely something to consider. A lot of people, initially people I didn't know were making accusations of him, but now people that I feel like I know fairly well are bringing up very extensive points regarding him. But I still think some sort of written punishment should be given before a full-fledged ban. And now it's solely because I think that if we jump straight to upholding the ban, that it will probably cause issues legally with the alleged lawsuit that he's threatening against the Dagger Here community, if that makes sense. If there's something documented prior and then a ban later on, which if he's continued this behavior for 40 years, then it's very likely that there will be something later on, then it would be fairly well warranted and it wouldn't really hold up well for him in like a court. But if we jump straight to a permanent ban without any previous documented disciplinary action, I feel like it would really not go well for us, for lack of a better term, in court, if that makes sense. But yes, thank you for all of that, Tim Warren. It definitely changed my view on it, I would say.
Okay, I'm trying to catch up on the hands, so I'm going to try and rein it a little bit. We are a little bit far behind on those. Are there anybody that is not currently a chapter rep that is wishing to make a comment? Because currently I do see a couple motions in order to move to a closed meeting. I can still get through the couple of hands we still have to go. But if most of those looking to make comment are chapter reps, we can move to the closed meeting and then maybe able to have a more thorough discussion on the matter. Next it was Brunor. Or Baronor, sorry.
You're fine. I've still have people who call me Roshi. A few things I forgot. One thing just about decorum. I know that's not always the most known thing for Dagger Here discussions is decorum. But I've seen a lot of ad hominems. If you don't know what that means, you're just attacking other people's character, or strongman, you're making up other arguments. Let's try to actually just be civil about this. Second, I forget who I was hearing talk. They had a very passionate speech about, have you ever seen this person do something to you? Also, don't confuse passion for something else. I don't want to misquote them, but it did sound kind of like a gaslight. Like if I get into an argument with my girlfriend and I yell and they go, don't mistake my passion for anger. I believe that's on the person receiving it to decide. And since you did ask about personal things, other than the fact that all of my friends except the Rangers out east have left the game, and Sirle and a few others. Sorry, and I'm going to get some hate mail my messages saying that I guess we're not friends. But when we had the meeting where I was elected head medic, and a few people asked me, why did you get elected head medic when I have my own opinions about things? Like, one, I don't care. I'm here to help people save lives if I absolutely have to, but help people help the game. But when he said, look around, look at everybody who's here, look at all the haters, for they are not here, that doesn't sound like somebody who really wants to protect the game. That sounds like somebody who wants to protect their ego. And I, as a police officer, I've seen a lot of people who want to protect their ego, and I wouldn't consider them good at the job even if they haven't had a complaint. And along the lines of my experience when we talked about the first time ban and how we should do a written warning before a just instant ban. So that kind of like the use of force continuum, either in the military or police, where you used to have to shout, show, shove, non-lethal, shoot, whatever. Sometimes you have to jump around in order to protect yourself and those that you are charged with protecting. We are charged with protecting the game and those within it. Excuse me, sorry. I had cheese and lactose intolerant, but we're charged with protecting the game and those within it. And right now, just looking at the stats and the statistics, if we let him back in, we will lose even more. And if we don't let him back in, we might lose just a small bit of our percentage. So just triaging this, as is my job as head medic, I would just urge us to look at this from a business point of view as well as an ethical point of view, protecting those who we are charged with protecting. I'll probably have a hand later because I'm dumb and forgot something, but for now, that is my turn. There's the meat.
Thank you. Trent.
Yeah, sorry, it took me a second to get to my phone. So I guess my concern is that I guess the chapter council voted to remove its oversight of the arbiter, so there is no oversight of the arbiter. Apparently, we're not entitled to see what he used or what he did. We're completely at his whim. He can do whatever he wants, and that's not an attack on Reacher. To me, that position sounds untenable in any kind of organization. How can you have a person who's both detective, judge, jury, executioner, and there's no oversight and there's nothing we can do about it? I just feel that sounds kind of odd to me. If we want to be a transparent organization and we want to grow, I feel like this is not a tenable position in the organization. Yes, I understand that, chapters need recourse. We find bad people, we need to get rid of them. There should be a system in place and levels of deterrence, just like, de-escalation training and all of that, but to have a position that does the investigation and then makes a decision and then doesn't have to publicly put out any of its findings or charge the individual, or could just go straight to a lifetime ban with nothing. Like, I don't know how you can get there. Like, how do you justify voting for a lifetime ban if we don't even get to vote? What am I talking about? I mean, it's just, we don't know what's going on. We have zero information, and I mean, that's where we are. And I don't know, because I haven't seen any information. So how do you make a decision on that? To me, it just seems like, regardless of the dominance issue, that this position just needs to be reworked, because it's, in my opinion, extremely dangerous. Sorry if that was long-winded.
Not a problem. Timorn, you did have a hand after them. Timorn, are you there?
Yeah, sorry about that. I was muted doubly. I don't remember exactly what I was putting my hand up before. I think I covered most of it in the speaking that I had before in my personal account. But I do need to reiterate, because this keeps getting drawn back to it, that the chapter council relinquished its ability to have the votes on all of these issues because they couldn't act in a timely manner, and that a lot of people didn't want to make the difficult decisions. And again, that it comes down to lifetime bans and suspensions come down to grievous crimes, harm to others, harm to the organization, and a general form of risk management that sometimes an individual's behavior damages the organization to such an extent that they need to be removed from the organization. Dominus's immediate response to being investigated for anything was to threaten a member of the board of directors. Now, this didn't come into any of this decision. All of this was what was being investigated before, but his reaction to that investigation was, I will sue you, I will sue your friends, I know who you are, a veiled physical threat, I know who your friends are, a veiled physical threat to other people, and then to follow through with sending a litigation, a letter of demand, not a request of any form or anything else like that, but a letter of demand. You must revoke my ban or I will sue the ever-loving hell out of you. And then to go on and send an unsolicited 16-page document to people that he had no right to have their contact information from. He basically tried to stack all of the information in his favor, so much so that Eritari just voted on the 14th to revoke his ban regardless of anything. They've already made their decisions. Not only that, they can't vote any other way. 2 units within Eritari, Gestegeist and Rome, made the decision that they are going to vote to overturn his ban regardless of any of the information that comes up tonight. That is so how far entrenched this individual is in that particular chapter that they're not going to listen to what you have to say. They're not allowed to. They have to vote to overturn without any information. Not hearing anybody's side other than Dominus's. Plain and simple. That represents a serious risk to a nonprofit organization that an individual that behaves in such a manner threatens the very existence of this organization. We are not in a position to defend ourselves legally without liquidating all of our assets. That is the only way that we could mount a legal defense should he decide to litigate for any reason. Our only asset is Ragnarok. That's the only thing we have. Now you guys have instituted the vote to allow us to fundraise and accept payments. That may help in the long run. But if I get a notice in the mail tomorrow from the state of Maryland that we're being sued as an organization, that's not going to help at all. Plain and simple. That is a serious risk to this organization put forth by one individual who has a temper and a malicious streak. He's shown for years that this is the type of person he is. Yes.
Morn, can we please move into a place where you will be protected?
I'm already protected. I'm not worried about it myself. The organization isn't. I have legal counsel.
Okay, I just want to make sure because we've talked a lot about we need to be there, and I think that this is very important discussion, but I don't know that we should be talking here.
Right. Do we have anyone that's not a chapter rep that wishes to have a further comment? I know we still have a couple to get through, and I will try and get through them even in the closed meeting. I know I'm at Olaf from about 10 minutes ago. But if there's not anybody that's not going to be part of the closed meeting, or if there's anyone that would not be in the closed meeting that has further comment they wish to make, can we move through those and then resume in the closed meeting? That way we can get some more information overall. The closed meeting is just the chapter reps, so that there's a little bit more protection for the organization as a whole for information to be shared. So it's not in a public forum. Okay, I will circle back unless Olaf needs to get out immediately. Let me know. I think Julius is director of records, may not be part of the chapter rep meeting itself. And then we'll go into a closed meeting, and then we'll circle back to Olaf's statement at hand from earlier. Yes, I know that I'm still behind on some. I know that you had one as well. I know Olaf, Ericos, Grappler, I believe. But I'm showing that each of these are all chapter reps. So unless we need to specifically go into, unless you want your comment specifically in this meeting, let me know, and we'll get it from here.
Tiberius, I do need to clarify something.
Sure.
Are you stating that the board of directors is not welcome in the closed meeting?
I don't have issue with it. I didn't know if their roles allowed for it or not, because that would also preclude Reacher as well, since he is part of the BOD.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we have access to the meeting.
Okay. I will resume with the hands in the closed meeting unless somebody has something they want to say in the public forum immediately. I know I've got Grappler, Olaf, and Ericos on the hook.
Tiberius.
Yeah.
My chapter officers have the ability to see the room. I think that they should have that removed. If we're going to have a closed meeting with just chapter reps and the board.
Okay, I don't know why they would have the. Oh, I bet they have that role to join this meeting, so we would need to remove them from this in order to get them into.
I specifically asked that they be able to review my words because I lost my temper last meeting. If we're having a chapter rep, I am still the rep. They reviewed me. I'm still the rep. So I feel like that has been conducted. I don't have the power to remove that. I just figured I would say that before we moved in there.
Okay.
If there is a concern for that, I can adjust the Discord roles so that only the board of directors and the chapter reps will see the room.
Thank you.
But I would like that to be like motioned on.
Oh, motion for them to remove the
Yeah,
roles?
because that's kind of a decent change to the how we're operating, and I don't want to do that on the whim of one person. I would like a second for that.
I will second removing the roles for the chapter officers.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anyone else that is not a chapter rep currently in this meeting that needs to have a comment in the public forum? Or do I have a second to close the meeting and we can move to the closed option, and I will resume with Olaf, Grappler, Ericos, and the others.
I second we close the meeting and move to a closed meeting.
Okay. I'm also not. I'll give it a couple of people typing another second.
I'll also note, don't forget that we'll necessitate a pause and break in the recording as well.
Correct. Yeah, so tell me when you want to stop this recording and then we'll all move over.
I will.
May I also suggest a 5-minute break for nature?
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem, I don't think.
Too much coffee.
I second that.
Okay. All right. So we will now close this meeting. I do appreciate everybody's time and energy and effort. I know we all deeply care about this game and want to do what's best for it. We will be resuming in the CC closed meeting voice channel. We will do that in 5 minutes. Well, we'll make it 7. So at 8:50, I think that's Eastern time.
Correct.
We will resume then. We will now close the recording for this meeting before resuming for the next one.